Good evening, everybody. Today is post-Valentine, February 15th, 2022, 6:30 p.m., and this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. We are going to say the pledge if you'd like to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Randy.
Okay. Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Winslow.
Present.
Trustee Everson.
Here.
Trustee Marks.
Present.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Kangas. Our attorney, Roger Zappa, is here, and on Zoom is Superintendent of Public Works, Lenny Bodinas, and our Fire Chief, Dan Shanahan, is here.
Thank you. Before we get started, is there anybody from the public who'd like to address the board? You can come up to the podium, and you have 3 minutes. Do we have any emails, Randy?
We did not.
Okay, then we'll get going. I need approval of the consent agenda, which tonight consists of approval of the closed session minutes of January 18th, 2022, and February 1st, and the regular meeting minutes of February 1st of 2022. We have bills payable in the amount of $211,750.54. We don't have any committee or other reports. We have a memo of a price increase for subscriptions from 906 Technologies. We do have a budget amendment that Randy can read, and we have the January 2022 financial statement.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
And if you want to,
Yeah, I'll get that here. Let me get that. Okay, budget amendment 20022-01, so it's the first one of the year. And its authorization is requested to allocate funding for the May 3rd, 2022 Market Area Public Schools election. Expenditure will be fully reimbursed. Also requested is funding for computer supplies for the deputy treasurer. And that election is about $7,000, and that will be reimbursed from the school district, so that won't change. It's just an in and out after we get the reimbursement, so.
so we have a motion support.
We do,
Roll call?
yep. So Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow.
Yes, do we know what they're putting on the agenda?
It's, I believe it's their sinking fund.
We're not real sure yet.
Well, when I get the ballot language, you'll see that before it goes to the county, so. Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. And I'd like to make one change on the remainder of the agenda. Since we have staff here, we can move 8D and 8E up, so they don't need to wait through the whole meeting, and that will be 8B and 8C then. I guess I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
You're gonna move them where now?
So 8D is going to become 8B. We'll let the League of Women Voters go first, and then we'll bring Dan up, and then we'll bring Lenny up, and then we'll go to the events.
So 8D will be 8B, and 8E will be 8C, and then we'll reorder the rest. So yeah, so you already moved that as amended.
Support.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Hate to do that. We didn't add anything, but we did just jiggle them around. We need to be more aware that we put the agenda together, we just add it on, and we don't think about it till after. So, okay, agenda's done. So first up, we have a Little League presentation in regard to Lions Field.
Okay, let me get that going here for Mark.
Hello, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. We'll get into this slideshow here in a second. I want to kind of touch back on the history between the township and Little League program. Back in 2011, and I think I'm one of the last board members that remember this, Lions Field was in disrepair, so we had came to the board and offered, or I guess entered into an agreement where we had donated $7,000 to redo the backstop fencing, repair some of the issues out there. And with that, we had agreed upon a 10-year contract that had given Little League, rights to use the field during certain times and things like that. There were some exclusions on weekends. One of the things that isn't really remembered, fast forward to 2013, several of our board members had become high school coaches, and at that time, their field was in disrepair, and the idea came up, hey, we kind of need dugouts, so we had came back to the township, did not ask for an amendment, built dugouts, that was roughly another $8,000 or so, and kind of stayed on our contract. That contract expired last July. So the groups kind of got together. We've had initial conversations with Mr. Kangas. There's some things that need to be done at the field yet, or that we'd like to see there installed. And, we have some funding that we would like to present to maybe get into another 10-year agreement that would include the 3 programs that are involved. And as a highlight, we kind of ran into a similar situation last year with the city of Marquette at our Legion field. We were selected to host the Class A tournament, and our field was in really, really bad shape. And we did not get a dime from the city. They made it very clear that if we wanted to do upgrades, we were going to do it on our own. So we took it upon ourselves. We raised funds, we went to contractors, we borrowed, begged, whatever we needed to do, stuck our shovels in the ground, and were able to do a $180,000 upgrade and hosted one of the most successful Class A state tournaments. I mean, we couldn't get a downstate team to come up here to save our life. And after last summer's state tournament, which we won, by the way, we have teams from downstate calling us, telling us, we want to have another tournament there. It's one of the most beautiful fields we've played on to date. And that's what we'd like to transition for the softball crew, the boys and girls of softball. We envision the Lions field as the same thing as what we just did with the Legion baseball field. It's close, but there's things that we would like to do to, I guess, put it at that next edge, and it be at a field where we can host, our state travel, NAFA tournaments, Little League district tournaments, high school district tournaments, so on and so forth. So I'll kind of show you, what you'd be getting from a group like us when we say we're going to deliver something, what we would deliver, and see if we can kind of stretch that contract or renew that contract and go from there. If you want to go to the first slide. So we started this project last year on April 22nd, as soon as the snow went, because we had until July 27th to get this field ready. We had a couple of local contractors come in, donate a ton of time, a ton of energy. And you can go to the next slide. We stripped everything down. That was our blank slate. You go to the next one. Just some more construction pictures of where we went with things. You can see how far we took this field down. We had 37 truckloads of old dirt go out. Tore out all the watering system. I mean, everything. You can go to the next slide, please. So we started bringing our topsoil in. We had the field laid out. Everything was to Legion and high school spec because the high school program uses this. If you click to the next slide. One more. We resodded, and this is some of the first dirt that we brought in. This is a specialized limestone product that we hauled specifically from Wapaka, Wisconsin. It takes 2 inches of rain in an hour, and you can be back on the baseball field. So those are one of the improvements that we would like to see done at the field here, that we would be part of, is bringing in, a dirt like this that makes the field more playable. So when it starts to rain, we don't have to push games back and things like that. So if you go to the next slide, that's the base of it. This stuff is crazy amazing. I mean, all the minor leaguers and professionals are, the injury, it's such a soft material, I don't know how to explain it, but it cuts down on injuries when you're sliding into it, and, you know, cleats and stuff like that as well. Go to the next slide. Kind of a finished product, close, but not there yet. Next slide. We put in a concrete structure behind that is all turf back here. Go to the next one. That's kind of the finished product, looking at, you know, the infield itself. And we didn't stop there. If you go to the next slide. So why I brought this in, we, you know, new backstop padding for safety. One of the things that we'd like to do at Lions Field is a very similar concession PA shed like we have at the Legion Field here. That's why I included this one in the slide. You kind of get a, you know, a picture of what we're looking to do. Probably not this size because the space is a little bit more limited, but it kind of gives you an idea. You go to the next one. So we upgraded the dugouts here, gave the kids more room. They didn't feel like they were in jail cells. Kind of widened it out for them to go crazy in the dugouts. You can go to the next slide. So this is another project that we'd like to do or be part of, is add a batting cage system. We did this at the Legion Field last summer, and we'd like to do the same product, not as big. We'd want to go with a single instead of a double. If you click on the next slide, it's concrete base, and then we put turf down on top of it, and it's a pole system that we would put up and take down every spring and fall. You can go to the next slide. So this is basically what we installed there. It's a 2-tunnel system, and it has exterior batting cage, batting stations, and then we put turf pads down for the kids to use. So we looked at doing a metal system. I mean, we looked at all kinds of different possibilities. And at the end of the day, we called our insurance companies because the city had concerns about, you know, putting up a metal one and not letting, you know, the public use it and things like this. And with this system, we figured, and talking with our insurance company, if somebody comes in and cuts the netting, messes up the turf, it's a few $100s to replace things like that, as opposed to doing a metal structure where, you know, the fence starts to fall, someone could get hurt, you know, things like that. And the kids absolutely love this. I mean, we've had a lot of the softball girls over at our complex utilizing this batting cage system. So you can go to the next slide, please. We also installed a 28-foot by 24-foot LED state-of-the-art scoreboard too, but there's a pretty decent one at Lions Field currently, I think. So you can go to the next one. That's finished product there. That's what our new fancy scoreboard looks like. Next one. And that's just our scoreboard display, and then our boys with their state title. So that's basically it on that. But so the 3 groups have met and talked. The 3 groups would be Marquette High School softball, Marquette Little League, and then Superior Fast Pitch softball. Most of us are all on one of those boards. I coach at the high school, the baseball program. I'm involved with Coach Kyle Johnson. You know, I talked about what their needs would be. They generally don't have a whole lot of money to kick in either, so the financial side of things would come from Little League and Superior Fast Pitch. And we're proposing somewhere around $10,000 in a cash asset between the 2, I guess I should say 3 programs, to purchase things like the batting cage, you know, the concrete, working with John on installing a watering system, working with Wapaka Sand and Solutions to get the crushed limestone up here. I've spoken with a handful of contractors already that are all in. Out of the $187,000 we spent on that Legion Field, $125 of it was all contractor contributions because they're excited for the kids. And right now, the girls, they have, you know, a good place with Lions. We want to make it a great place for them. So that's why we would be asking, you know, in partnership with the township, if we could, you know, if we invest this money between the groups, if you would be interested in renewing that 10-year contract as opposed to, you know, user group fee or a yearly thing. That's kind of what we're looking at in a nutshell. One other thing we'd like to do, you know, the township 10 years ago wasn't in favor of us seeking sign sponsorships. That's a big part of fundraising nowadays for us. So we would like to be able to display from, you know, when Little League season, or actually high school season kicks off in May through fall when Superior Fast Pitch gets done, 3x5 sponsor signs on the outfield fence, and then we would remove them and store them. And then hopefully put them back up the next year if we can get them to re-sign with our sponsorships.
And those are just banners, hey, Mark?
They are,
They're
yeah.
Just vinyl banners, so
Yeah.
they're not heavy on the fence. No.
No, they're actually, we have signs Unlimited make them. They're like a corrugated cardboard plastic
Okay.
almost. But we've had them just, I think you can kind of see in this last picture, we have, I think we're up to 47 on our Legion field. So, that's a big part of getting people's names out there, the businesses' names out there, and it's a good way for all three programs to generate sponsorship money to be able to do things like this with the township.
And just a little I don't want to interrupt you, but just a little history lesson. I was on the Legion board when we got the city to give us those signs, and it was a fight. I
It
can
was.
tell you that. It was a
You're-
fight.
You're absolutely correct. And they actually, they tried to limit us again last year, and we sat down and said, we're at $180,000, and you guys have contributed some water pipe and some trucks. They hauled all our dirt out. And we're kind of at an uphill battle again too, because we were in the budget this year after all the work we did for $10,000 for some fence upgrading on their field, which ultimately is their field, and we were just notified a week ago that it was approved and then immediately removed from the budget. So it's unfortunate. We don't get much help with them. I mean, if we could have went somewhere else, we would have, but we were already so deep into the field, and it is what it is. We've never had that issue with the township. I mean, we've worked well as, the three groups are intertwined. We've never had an issue with scheduling. We've never had an issue with the township. Going back to the previous supervisors we would call, I mean, everything was always taken care of. And what we'd like to do is help take that next step to take some of the pressure off. With this crushed limestone, you don't have to chalk it as much. We spray the lines. If we could get an irrigation system in there, things like that. We're here to be all in to help. And it's ultimately for the girls that are 5 years old to 19 years old playing softball, and that's our goal.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
I was, when we had the hotel, I have a 3x5 banner, and I wanted to put it up. I was on the board, and I had asked the then manager if we could do that, because I was willing to, pay a couple $100 to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And he said no. So apparently the board had already said years ago that they weren't going to do that, because I figured it'd be a fundraiser too.
Yeah, I mean, people are surprised how quickly it generates. I mean, especially, when your program's going the right direction, people want to get behind that, and they want to help support it and say, see, my name's out there too, my company did this, or, whatever. But, it's, doing this Legion field has opened the doors for a ton of possibilities, and the contractors, Ultra Construction, they're a new company in town. I mean, they jumped right in. They had guys, they had equipment, they had trucks there, and, we've talked to them about doing some of the concrete and some of the stuff that John and I talked about, and again, they said, we're all in. So, Midway, they'll give us trenchers for installing irrigation systems, so we're planning without even kind of having an agreement in place, in hopes that you guys, want to continue that partnership and, and help us grow Lions Field into a destination for softball like we did, high school baseball and Legion baseball. That's our goal.
Questions for Mark? Ernie?
I think it's well done. I think the future is there. Right now, being a board member, I'm looking for some documentation to make some decisions, and I would suggest, it's my personal feeling, is that you work with the manager, put together necessary paperwork, come back to us for the next meeting, so we can actually vote on this and move forward on this.
Okay.
So, 'cause right now, everything is great, but we don't have anything in writing to really move forward. I think it's great. I'm just at that point, I need that
And
piece of paper.
I think the reason we didn't throw a contract together right now to present is, we want to make sure it works for you guys and it works for us. The existing contract that was in place from 2010, it was very basic. It protected you guys, it protected us, but it was workable. We didn't really have any details beyond that. Who's responsible for chalking, who's responsible for field dragging, things like that. And those are all things that we're willing to take on to ease the pressure of, of the public safety or public works department and things like that. So, if maybe John and I and whoever else needs to be involved and kind of sit down, put it all on paper, what you guys are expecting, what we're expecting, we have absolutely no problem with that. We just want it to be fair for both parties. That's all we're looking after.
I think that's the best way to go at this point in time. The presentation was great, the future is there, it's just that we as a board have to do certain things, and we
Sure.
have to get that taken care of.
Yep.
And do so.
But it's got to be nice for groups to come in here to offer money instead of ask for money.
Well, you have my support anyhow. That was a great presentation. And
Perfect.
and I think it's a win-win situation for everybody in the community. I really do.
One other thing too, and I guess the reason that we kind of wrapped up into, 3 groups into one is there's some confusion. There's other softball programs out there. There's other, men's fast pitch and stuff. We just want to clearly document what 3 groups are involved for the township's sake and for our sake, because at the end of the day, there's 3 different sets of insurance involved, but we're all one group. And there was some confusion that came up last year when a group tried to jump on in Little League's time, and we want to make sure that's all clear between your board and us as well, so there's no concerns there going forward also. So that's one other thing we'll involve in the contract is our insurance, what it covers, and what 3 groups are actually involved in this project. Sound good?
Good.
Very good.
Any,
So I have
Linda?
some questions.
Sure.
And so maybe this will get rolled into the contract, but I think we need to address who can use that concession stand when you're not using it.
Yep.
You don't have to answer any of those, just, I think that's important to know, because we do have some events down there, and we maybe would want to be able to use that. Who can use that batting cage, and is it locked? The other thing is the city of Marquette currently charging you rent on those fields as well as the other? Because when my children played, I had to pay the city more money, okay? Not that I'm a supporter of that, but I know that they've done that in the past. And then I'm not really sure who the groups are here. I know high school softball, and Marquette Little League, but who are Superior Fast Pitch, and what does that look like for the residents?
Yep, okay,
Okay.
so I can answer all of those questions. We're
Okay.
used to these questions coming at us. So the concession stand would be a group agreement between us and the township. It would be ours to use during our games, it would be yours to use during whatever rentals you have. I guess that's the picture we see going forward. I guess we'd have to work out, the power bill, things like that. We're not concerned about that, but it would be a dual-use facility, if that makes sense. So your second question, yes, we pay a user group fee to the city of Marquette. We no longer pay rent. We have seemed to hash that issue out, but we do pay a $150 per team user group fee. And I believe Little League also has to pay them, because their 3 fields are separate. They pay them $10 per game that the city has to go and chalk. We do all our own chalking and painting for the Legion program and the high school program. So yes, I guess technically they do charge rent. There is some discussions happening right now with Little League and Legion combined and the city commission about what the future looks at North Complex for those 2 programs. If there's going to be an agreement or a possible agreement for us to just take over the facility. My guess is if they had their option, there would have been bulldozers there, and there'd be either more housing or soccer fields are built already if we went to stepped in and upgraded those fields. I mean, it was seriously to the point where our insurance company wouldn't carry us to play on those fields. So hopefully that answers that question. And then your last question, so Superior Fast Pitch is the newest group here. There were a couple other softball programs out there that were, different age groups, different coaching staffs, uninsured. We got together in November as a group and saw what the future could be for the girls. We filed a 501c3, our own insurance, things like that, and we envisioned having one team. We partnered with Northern. We were able to get in the dome for softball, for high school softball, high school baseball, Legion baseball, and the publicity has just exploded. It looks like there's potential we actually may field 6 teams. Now that's in partnership with Little League. We don't want to cut into their time, so when their season kicks off and runs until early June, our season starts from June through August. Now the girls' travel softball has just exploded over the last 5 to 7 years. and we are behind the times in what we've done. So that's why we created Superior Fast Pitch, and it's for girls ages 8 through 18. And it just gives them the opportunity, like our Legion program, if they want to keep playing after Little League is done or after the high school season is done, to go and travel around the UP or, downstate or in Wisconsin to get more exposure to, maybe into college contract or something like that. So that group is also have board members on the Little League board as well as the high school baseball board and coaching staffs. We took it to the next level. So that's, I guess, hopefully answers your question. So Superior Fast Pitch is.
It'll actually utilize the fields during the months when softball can be played instead of leaving them empty.
Correct, yes. And we would like to host tournaments and things like that as well. It's a huge fundraiser, and it brings people into the town. And I mean, it's weird, but I mean, Marquette's a destination place, and when our first tournament's at the Dome this year. It's our first annual SFP in May for these girls, and we're already at like 18 teams as far as the Ohio border, Wisconsin. They just want to come up and play. And then our goal is to have our tournament, which mirrored what a different group did last year in August, as the end of the season. And we've already have people asking about, can we get into that tournament? And we haven't really advertised it yet because we don't know where we're going with it yet. So that's hopefully that answers all your questions.
For now.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm sorry, the batting cage. We will not lock that batting cage. It's, there's nothing really they can damage. If somebody gets in there and wants to cut the netting or they want to just use it, we left, this one here was a $28,000 batting cage system. We left it open all summer last year. We had a camera system up at the Legion Field and people respected it. They used it. They enjoyed it, and they helped keep it up. I mean, we had people showing up. This is an awesome complex. Can we come here and we'll do some raking and put the seat down? It was amazing what a mesh net batting cage did for people that weren't even in our program. So we have no intentions of locking it. And as far as insurance, it would go under, if it's high school, during that time, it would go under theirs, Marquette Little League and SFP. So we would ultimately be responsible for it, but we would also display signage that says use at your own risk.
Thank you.
So
Yeah, Pete was next, I think.
Yes, what's the construction time frame for doing all that?
we started April 22nd. We were playing baseball July 19th.
Good.
So if everything's approved, we would have, the contractors in place. The only touchy thing would be the concession stand. That would probably take maybe through the end of August or so, because we've got code compliance to deal with, plumbing, all of that stuff. So I would assume the concession stand may not be in operation until the end of August. That would be our goal, but everything else hopefully in place by middle of May, somewhere around there.
I just wonder about, we try to stay away from August 6th because we have an event there
Okay?
on August 6th. All right,
If you gave me a goal and said, I need that thing up by August 6th, come hell or high water, I'll have it up by August 6th, sir.
there's no thoughts about changing names and that?
No,
Okay.
nope. You mean as far as the field name goes? That would be up for you guys to decide. We don't want to
No,
get
we're
into
not
that battle. No, sir.
Well, and Mark, we do have a camera system at Lions Field too, so that could help. If we added, I don't know if we have them point in that direction, but we could probably add a couple cameras that direction. That might be what help
Okay,
security of that area.
sounds good. I sure appreciate your time, and we'll get with who I need to get to and work out a contract and go from there.
Go ahead, Dan.
I just had are you planning on resodding that field too, or what's your?
John and I talked to Touch about that one.
I'll take that one. So, as a department, Building and Grounds, and Public Works have already talked about wanting to replace the irrigation system in the outfield because the irrigation system that exists is no longer functional. Part of what Mark has brought to the table is the trenching equipment for us to do it. I think we might have put some money in this year's budget for the materials, and we would most likely complete most of the work with our own staff with the donated equipment. We don't have all the details worked out yet. It's still February, but to keep up with Mark, we better get going. The goal was upgrade the irrigation system, and then we could actually get the turf back in good shape without adding sod. We could overseed right away this spring, overseed again in the fall, hopefully not have to add too many chemicals, but I have a feeling if we got good, healthy grass growing again, it would be a very nice outfield.
Anybody ever done you're talking about putting in the irrigation system. Have you dug down at all to see what type of soil there is there? Or is it favorable to build back up, or?
It is. I remember from when we were doing the dugouts there, it's
Pretty good?
pretty workable, yeah.
Okay.
And they
It just
would,
needs to go deeper. I think that's why the other one failed, because there was one winter where it didn't get pumped out, and that was the start of the end.
and I think also, John, right field, you would look at maybe raising that up because it dips right now.
Yep, it's a little bit of a safety hazard. I don't know that it bothers a lot of people currently, but it bothers me. Having played right field during our grudge match during the community day, I didn't have to chase any balls down in that corner, but if I did, I would have been worried about my health.
We'd love to see that leveled. If it doesn't happen, we call that our hometown advantage, because the other teams aren't used to that downhill run. Tell all our girls to hit it right.
Where'd John go?
Do you have another question, Ernie?
Yeah, the only question I have on the banners, on the fences, I don't know about our zoning, if we can allow that or not, or it has to be changed, or do we have to address that?
I think that would go to the planning commission
That's
and
what I
our
mean,
sign
planning commission will
ordinance.
have to look, hold on, and see if that's available, or we can do it.
Well, I think you can do it, you just have to change your sign ordinance, then you'd have to do, I know what we did with the city is we made an agreement with their planning commission, which ultimately went to the city commission, as far as how many signs you could have up, the time placement, and it worked out in the end. I think we could probably do something like that, but with the planning commission, I mean, at the city was a harder process because some of the staff there weren't in favor of us doing that, so it was kind of hard. I think we have more support here to do that. Well, that was many, many years ago. Staff has changed and they're more supportive now, but.
Okay.
Talking
Anything
fence
else?
signs? Yeah, well, everyone does it, you know, and that's brings the money in.
Well, we'll hear more too then, when Mark comes back. Some of these questions will be answered.
Sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, fire department. Chief Dan is gonna fill us in.
That's going to be tough to follow, because I know later on I'll be asking for a little bit of money, or an extension on some money. But anyway, January was pretty uneventful. I'll just hit you do have my written report, or you should have got a copy of it, and I'll just hit a few of the highlights. Again, mutual aid for EMS, we had a couple in the city last month. The only interesting call that we really had was we had a wildland rescue up at Wetmore's Landing one evening. I know we did have one interview this past month, and quite a few of the members did work the Nequaminan marathon race, January 22nd, which it's a good day for us to get out and get the Argo out and the sled out and get a lot of good training in. And we make it a fun day too. As we talked last month, we did apply. The AFG grant has been completed. That was for the ambulance. And the micro grant, and I know it's not in the report again, but for the micro grant, we applied for a fit tester. I know you had asked, I believe you had asked last time, because it's not in there, what did we apply for? We applied for a fit tester for our SCBA's. And that's something that we do the whole, fit test the whole county with, and we do get reimbursed. We do to cover our costs anyway. And we did have a little, not an accident, but our Argo that we've had since 2003, probably our most reliable outside machine, did break down on us at the Nequaminan, which was nice. We were just during training, and we got that back the other day, but that's going to be a little expensive. I just got the bill yesterday. And I know later I'll be asking for more, not more money, but just an extension on previous, when I was here last month.
Ernie?
I just have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have your license for acting in that?
Acting?
Your
No.
Channel 10?
Oh.
Are you joining the actors?
Before he goes, I
Guild?
should tell you,
That, go ahead, Ernie, I'll let you finish first.
I happened to be switching
You're probably one of
channels
the, no,
on Channel 10 News, and all of a sudden, he appeared. He made a
that'll wake you up.
presentation on fire alarms and fire and everything else, and they had the young lady from Channel 10 there, and they got her in a bunker suit and got her on the fire engine, they got her everything like that. He did an excellent job, I'll tell you that. Fantastic job. I couldn't believe that.
That I did.
Non-actors-
Yeah.
Did you tape it?
I wish I could. It
I know, I
happened
haven't
so
seen
fast,
it.
I wish I could.
I didn't see it either.
You
I
can
don't-
call
Love
him
to
and
see
ask
that.
him for a copy.
Okay.
He'll give you a copy.
No,
Yeah,
he did an excellent job.
It was very impromptu. It was everything, because I had sort of planned, because they did say they were coming, but they wanted to do something different. And then we were out, and I did speak with the manager previously, that we were gonna go for possibly a ride-along. And that's, I think, that's where the interview might have taken place. I didn't see the video, but as we were riding around.
It was inside the fire hall and that. And
Oh, okay.
everything like that, and then outside, she was on the fire truck and that.
Yep.
Wherever you went, I don't know, but.
Yeah.
She was fully dressed, and she did an excellent job, and you did an excellent
Oh,
job.
good, thank you. Yeah, no, it was fun, and it's to promote the department, obviously, too. So, and we did, one other side note, I think Dan might have been there, I was out on a call, I think we were out on a call. A lady was very appreciative and dropped off a box of chocolates at the fire hall. Did you get a chance to have one, Dan? Yeah. And a nice thank you, and it was very nice.
As Chief Belt always said, just eat the evidence.
Yeah, it was gone, yeah. But, yeah.
That's how I
Do you
started.
have questions for Dan?
I had to get one before
I
Rob
know,
got it.
before, yeah, I understand.
That's-
I understand, yeah, well understood.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Dan. All right, Public Works. Mr. B.
Hello, everyone. Just really quickly here, for our stormwater, we've been in correspondence with UPEA about our Lower Dead River Backyard Creek culvert project that we have coming up this summer. Looks like things are progressing. We hope to get some more information for y'all coming up here in the next couple meetings. It's slated to start this summer here, so hopefully we'll get something up and we'll get that to you. Wastewater, I think Ernie had seen that he had reported that we had a sewer backup right in front of Buffalo Wild Wings there. It happened in early February. It was kind of a mess there, was backing up down the highway, but we were able to get there pretty fast and get the obstruction cleaned out and get it cleaned up. We actually had some help from the fire department, which we really appreciate. They kind of were able to hold up traffic there for a little bit with the big orange truck with the flashing lights, so we could get our work done. So we really appreciated that. Everything was cleaned up. We applied lime to the affected area. That kind of helps neutralize anything that's bad on the ground. We cleaned up as much as we could. We actually had Eagle staff down there, and we corresponded with them. And so we did everything right. We got all our documentation in, all our notifications, and we're good to go on that. One thing that we're gonna have to do is double our inspections on our manholes and on the highway, and probably get some more televising done this summer, just to kind of make sure that that's staying clean. The main's heavily used, and that's basically where everything's coming out there, so when we have problems in there, it can kind of get nasty really fast. So we're gonna really try to keep up on that, keep it clean, and keep it inspected. Water, Manager Kankus and I have been in discussion with UPEA about the Public Works Facility roof. It's ongoing. We've been kind of corresponding back and forth, giving some information back and forth. Everything is looking good as far as what we thought our worst fears as far as for cost. Hopefully that's not going to be it. The numbers are definitely moving in the right direction favorably for us. We hope to have some more information for you on that project coming up here within the next few meetings. We're starting to think summer around the Public Works Facility. We're starting to work on some of the programs that we want to start implementing this summer. one of the big things that we want to do is a unidirectional flushing program. Basically, that's where you kind of start at one point and you pull everything back to one point, trying to get everything clean. We're pretty lucky that our water mains are fairly clean, but it's still something that's good to do to, number one, to clean the water, make sure the mains are clean. Number two, it gives us an opportunity to exercise and test out a lot of our valves, and also the same thing with the hydrants. So it's just it's a good exercising for all of our equipment, and it also allows us to find if something's broke, we'll find it by doing that. Building and grounds, staff has been busy with routine snow cleanup, cleaning, and ice rink maintenance. We actually we got a new part for our Zamboni. A board wheel guide had broke off, and it kind of dinged into the board a little bit there. So we got that fixed, and we got the Zamboni fixed at the same time. So everything's running good there. We continue to get very positive feedback on the ice rink. It's a very heavily used facility, and we always hear good things about it. People they really like it. They really like that we have it available and that we're upkeeping it. A couple quick things that I did not have on this report. As you may or may not know, I believe we did report on a couple meetings ago that we were going to apply for a notice of intent for some future sewer and water projects. So we got those notice of intents into Eagle. We did get some word that almost everybody in the state of Michigan applied for that, and there's very limited money. But we do have a meeting set up here in a couple weeks with some Eagle personnel to start going over some of those plans and talk about it. So even though everybody in the state of Michigan seems to apply for those infrastructure funds, hopefully we can, most of the money is going to go to Southeast Michigan, to the bigger communities, but hopefully we can fight over some scraps and get some of that coming this way. So that's it.
Questions for Lenny?
Just have one comment to say, it's nice to have a good year actually for making ice instead of losing ice all the time, so good job.
Yeah, and we're trying to build it up right now, anticipating with the higher sun angle, we're gonna lose it pretty fast. We're trying to really keep up on top of it, and maybe we'll get an extra or two out of it by getting a nice thick base there.
Lenny, I've got one question I found in Township Focus, the MTA magazine, just last week. I didn't get a chance to even ask you about it, but it says an investment of $55 billion for clean drinking water, including funding to replace lead service lines, is available. Michigan would receive $1.3 billion to improve water infrastructure, including the lead service line replacement. So is this something different, or? I just wanted to make you aware of it in case there's someplace else we can go for funding.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it and see what's there. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. I'm guessing a lot of that funding is going to go to places like Benton Harbor, Flint, and some of those type of places had a lot of lead service line issues. But yes, it's definitely something that I can do some research on and look at it.
Because we've got to do 20%, like you said, even though
Right.
we pretty much know we don't have the problems that they do. We could have some,
Right.
but, okay, it just
And
happened to.
that might be more for the replacement when they do find the lead service lines, the replacement of it
Maybe.
versus than just looking for them like we're pretty much going to be doing.
Okay. Okay, what else for Lenny, anything? Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next up is our attorney report.
Well, since my last report, probably the most time-consuming issue has been the property maintenance code violation against the 3 co-owners. That's ongoing. We tentatively have a formal hearing, which is a trial, in front of Judge Kangas Thursday, though as recently as this afternoon, I've been in constant communication, at least it seems like it, with a couple of the property owners, and we may be fairly close to working out a resolution so we don't have to go through with that. I've been advised that one of the individuals has signed a written agreement that I had reviewed and gave my approval of, and that a second one is going to do so, so I'm waiting to hear from a third on that. The essence of that is nobody can clean it up until late spring or early summer anyway, so we would be looking at a June 1st timeline for it to be cleaned up to our satisfaction, and then potentially, if it isn't, under the written agreement, the township would have the ability to go in and undertake some or all of the cleaning, and the parties have agreed among themselves how that cost would then be reimbursed to the township if we need to go that far. We'll see, and I'll keep you posted. I will have more to report at the next meeting, I'm sure, on what happened with that. A couple of tax tribunal matters have been ongoing, and I reviewed an ALS, an Advanced Life Support Agreement with the city that the fire department has recently been discussing. And I took a look at the Pierce fire truck contract as well, with a couple of comments and recommendations along the way, and I'm sure I am overlooking something, but that's the bulk of what came to mind as I was making some notes this afternoon.
He had a few other agreements he's reviewed for staff as well.
Well, we don't want him to get bored, we gotta keep him busy. Roger, who pays for the hearing then if we have to go Thursday? Is that
township.
out of our pocket? Okay.
What a surprise.
Any other questions for Roger? Okay, thank you, we appreciate you. All right, community linkage. Anybody have anything they're hearing from the community? Apparently the Ice Rink is a success, we know that. We always get lots of good compliments. We've really struggled with the last few years because of the sun and the weather.
So I've heard a couple things.
Sure.
Some of the residents are concerned about the high snowbanks here. There's one at the corner here, when you go out of Trowbridge. So I don't know if we're pushing the snowbanks too high so people can't see. So we might want to look at that. Another person asked me about the roof over the ice rink, what happened to that whole idea. So we might want to relook at that.
Well, $150,000 happened to that, so we kind of stopped talking about
Well,
it.
$150,000, we were able to do Pete's Pass. It was probably more than $150,000.
No, we only had 17,000, 14,000, I think, from the public.
We did, but we were able to do Pete's Pass by getting funding from other places.
The state, yeah.
Well,
Different grants.
so Lynn.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I'm
But that's
just
why we stopped
telling
talking
you
about
what I heard, so yeah. And it would alleviate the ice melting as quickly when the sun changes its direction, too. So the ice would be in longer.
Right.
So,
Okay,
who knows?
anything else? I have a couple things to share. Mining Journal article. I can find it. And I'm gonna hand it out to the board. I don't know, Randy, if you wanna put it in the packet after or not. We had just done a letter to Rep. Cambenzi and Senator McBroom, and the Mining Journal had an article, it was either Saturday or Monday, I'm not sure. The Traverse City Eagle did an editorial kind of supporting the same thing, that we shouldn't be just putting off the Zoom idea because technology is taking us that way. And I also have a copy of the minutes from, if you remember last meeting, I told you about the road commission meeting with some of our township supervisors. And these are the minutes from the first meeting. The road commission has funding, and they also have asked, or are going to ask the county, I guess they did ask the county for some money out of their ARPA funds. You remember we talked about that before. So Jim is asking, Jim Iwaniki, the engineer director of the road commission, has asked that maybe we write a letter to the county asking for support for them to get the, it's 3.7 million something. He thought it would be beneficial if we wrote a letter. So I told him I would mention that to you guys. I also did ask Jim the last time we met if he would push back the bank, talking about Linda's Banks, at Grove Street and 492. Because turning left there, if you're going east, is very difficult to get around somebody who has to get out to see around the bank. So he did that today. I said, the next time we get a snowstorm, you don't have to rush, and you're gonna plow, would you just push that back? So he widened the whole thing. He did a great job. And then we also had, in the MTA magazine, upgrading roads and bridges. The 7,300 miles of highway in Michigan are in poor condition. So Michigan's supposed to receive $7.3 billion over the next 5 years to replace the roads. So as far as I know, I didn't find anything in here that said this was ARPA money. This must be I don't know if it's part of the Build Back Better that they were trying to pass. Excuse me. So there is money out there, and I did email Jim today and said, is this a different pot? Can we get some of this money? The funding represents a 30% annual increase in the federal highway program. And I don't know, bridge-wise, I don't know how our bridges are. Maybe it's just for the ones that are in poor condition. But I did follow up with him on that, so hopefully I'll get an answer on that. I think that's all I had for you to share. Then we can consider a resolution for the Marquette County League of Women Voters.
Lynn, I just had one other comment under community linkage that I thought of when you brought up the road commission. I had a little incident in my neighborhood where there's a dead-end street, and somebody took it upon themselves to put a no trespassing sign up where the street ended, and it's the right-of-way goes through. And I talked to Manager Kangas, and he got a hold of the road commission. They looked into it, and within 24 hours they were there. The sign was gone, and now the people that want to walk down through there or snowshoe or whatever, like they had been doing for years, can go back to doing it. So I wanted to thank Manager Kangas and the road commission for taking care of it.
Pete gave you that one too.
8, Lions Park in Marquette Township Central to winter fun. Thursday.
Did put a nice article
Mining
in
Journal.
for the township.
Gators visitors are expected to clean up any refuse in place in the provided container. Great many fun winter activities available at the facility. Warming buildings open from 8 to 7 p.m. daily. No alcohol or substances. Rink hours are 8 to 9:30. What a wonderful facility, open to any and all people. We encourage residents to get involved. Thanks, Pete. Gosh, the Journal's had bunches of good articles lately and editorials. Okay, sorry, ladies. Feel free, yep, come on up to the podium. We've been presented with a resolution, it's in your packet. Excuse me, that League of Women Voters would like us to consider. So if you want to give us a heads up. A
Sure.
preface.
I'm Sandy Breitenbach, and I live at 114 East College in Marquette. I am the Director of Voter Services with the Marquette County League, and I am speaking as a representative of the League tonight. The League of Women Voters has been in existence for over 100 years. We are a nonpartisan organization whose main mission is to defend voting rights and encourage informed citizen participation in government. Michigan citizens, including Marquette County, voted overwhelmingly in 2018 to amend the state constitution to improve voter access. These changes resulted in a record voter turnout throughout Michigan. Our league knows that it is at the city and the township level that the business of the elections really takes place. In the 2020 election, clerks and supervisors were under enormous pressure due to the global pandemic, new voting rules, no increase in state funding, and an anxious and divided electorate. Because of clerks' work, we had the most secure election in our history, as confirmed by some 250 audits around the state and a state Senate review led by our Senator Ed McBroom. Despite these successes, many bills, petitions, and actions are currently in the works in Michigan and across the county country, that will restrict voters' access to the ballot and make election administration less effective and efficient. Utilizing input from local clerks and information from Michigan Secretary of State's legislative agenda, the League has proposed a resolution advocating for citizens' access to voting and for fair participating in our secure elections. It confirms support of policies that expand and protect fair access to voting and that sustain and strengthen our election system. This evening, on your agenda, you have that resolution to consider. We ask that the board adopt this resolution or a similar resolution that's crafted specifically towards your needs. We have good election practices in place, and our Secretary of State has an agenda to make them even better, and at the same time improve access to voting. Voting is key to democracy, and as citizens, we all need to do our best to preserve and improve access to voting for all of our citizens. We also need to support our clerks, poll workers, and other election officials in doing their jobs. And thank you.
My name is Joanna Mitchell. My address is 10 East Nicolay in Marquette. I'm also with the Marquette County League of Women Voters. I'm the secretary and coordinating the resolution committee. The resolution before you begins with 7 statements of principle as a foundation. Then the board resolves to support policies that expand and protect equitable access to voting and that strengthen and sustain a robust election infrastructure. I'd like to highlight 4 concrete examples of measures that would make a big difference in Michigan. In our conversations with clerks, these measures rose to the top. First, make November's election day a state holiday. This is the single most effective way to enable a large number of voters to get to the polls. A holiday would allow working folks, not just retirees, to serve as our election inspectors, and it would free up public school spaces for polling places. Already 19 states have elections holidays, as do several major employers like the State of Michigan, the University of Michigan, and the United Auto Workers. Second, allow overseas service members to return their ballots electronically. Currently, they must rely on mail service to vote, and they waive their right to a secret ballot. Speedy delivery of their secret ballots is a service that overseas military personnel deserve. Third, earmark sufficient state funding for local elections to support the services, the labor, and the new equipment that are needed for efficient, accessible, and secure elections. Fourth and last, allow processing of absentee ballots and early voting to begin the weekend prior to Election Day. You'll recall that long delays in reporting election results are mostly due to the labor-intensive processing of absentee ballots. A head start in processing these ballots by even a few days would enable timely reporting of final election results and raise public confidence. That public confidence in fair and secure elections underpins democracy and requires our active support. The resolution then closes by offering the Township Board an opportunity for action, sending the resolution to the Governor, the Secretary of State, and the UP delegation of state legislators. In concert with other townships, cities, and counties, please let your voice be heard in Lansing. Thank you for considering the resolution and for the opportunity to speak.
Joanna, I've got a couple questions on what you just said. You were talking about the early voting, counting actually. Is that more likely to be a corruption problem because you have so many advanced days where things could go wrong or could be compromised? Does that not I mean,
That,
I know our clerk is not gonna do that, but in big cities and,
I'll take a small city, Marquette. I'm a chair of the absent voter counting board there. And I would say the most likelihood of error happens after 21 hours of work on election day when you're trying to process 7,000 some odd ballots. I think that that staff and election workers could be more alert, efficient, and careful, and the security, there are security measures for managing transfer cases and all those things overnight, and I believe that those practices could be planned out for how they're handled over a 3-day interval.
okay, what about you were talking about any of the military voting? Do we have equipment in the country already that allows them to do it electronically, or is this something that would have to be developed?
It would be developed, but it's my understanding from talking to some clerks that the technology, for example, that's used currently in the voter assist terminals enables a QR code to be printed on a piece of paper, and that enables the voter to have a secret ballot. And the same kind of technology could be used to enable military personnel to communicate with their home jurisdiction. And definitely it's something that would need to be developed by the state.
Anybody else going to speak, or just, if you want to? Okay, that's fine. Randy, yeah, tell us, we were talking today about how this pertains to Marquette Township, what you do and.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with these points. I think a lot of it would really help and make elections more efficient. And Lynn actually kind of asked me, why are they coming and doing this? And I said, it's because they want to make sure that our election system, your group wants to make sure our election system stays at least the way it is now and is not restricted any further. Because there is legislation that is going to restrict if it does pass. So that's what they're trying, that your group is trying to at least keep it the way it is and try to make it so more people can vote and keep our, I think Michigan has one of the best election systems in the country the way it is now with the paper ballots. And we are very secure. And we have the paper ballot backup. So, but I do agree we should be able to at least open the absentee ballots the day before and store them and then just run them through the next day. That would make things a lot easier. I'm not opposed to early voting the week before or the weekend before, because we are open 8 hours on that Saturday before anyway. So just a matter of running your election workers another day. And Saturdays, a lot of people can get there Saturdays, so I'm not opposed to that. And we already have ID requirements, so that's already in place. So, I mean, I have no objection to this resolution. I think it was well done, and it protects what we are doing now and hopefully continues to broaden the election process in the future, so.
Good, thanks for that. Questions, comments? Linda? Okay.
Nope, thanks.
John?
I agree with Clerk Rattari. The proposal that's before us is very carefully, I think, avoided issues that others are proposing that make it a controversial step. You have obviously taken time to make sure that what you're doing is improving what we have today. And I agree with Clerk Rattari. We have a system that works well here. And the Elections Committee makes sure that what the laws are now are in place and observed. And I thank you for your effort to also follow that and propose nothing that was going to send us off on the side street. So I agree and I support the effort that you've made. I know it took a lot of time to do that. And so I appreciate it, and I too will agree with Clerk Ricari that this is something that, a step we can take, and we can watch how it works. And if we can do some other things with time, and carefully make sure that nothing violates the control that we have over keeping elections fair. And I thank you again.
The only objection I had was the state holiday idea, because I'm a former small business owner, and that would be difficult. I would think it would be easier to allow, or maybe even require, business owners to provide, like they used to years ago on Good Friday. You had to have 12 to 3, you know, if you wanted to go to church, you were allowed to go. And I think that might be an easier sell, even for the business community, if they didn't have to probably pay to have another day off, because we all have, what, 12, some places have 17 days off that they have to pay. So, I mean, a whole day, obviously other states are making it work, but I think that's a lot to ask, especially now with everybody being so shorthanded, and that will happen for a few years. It will continue. But otherwise it makes sense to me. Who had their hand up? Or, let's hear from Randy first.
Yeah, my only comment would be, Lynn, is if, I don't have a problem with it being a holiday or at least time for the people to vote that day. If you would allow early voting on that Saturday before, that would alleviate a lot of that issue on Tuesday anyway, and you probably wouldn't have to make it a holiday, because a lot of folks can get there on Saturday, so, unless you gotta work Saturday, but either way, I don't have a problem with it. I just think they should make some time during that day, as you said, with Good Friday, a couple hours during that day, they can get out and vote. Wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, at least allow them to do it. Bernie?
I only want to comment that there are goals in your proposal that you're asking us to accept. There are goals that will have to find their way through the legislature. And so I'm not concerned that the state legislature or the governor's office is going to act quickly on all of this. I think we've all learned that lesson. And so I'm not alarmed by it, and I think having goals in there that are attempting to achieve, in the future at least, things that would make voting an easier effort for some people that find it difficult now. I'm not alarmed by it, and I know how long the Michigan legislature will struggle over this before they take action, if at all.
Bernie?
I think just kind of follow up on John's. My feeling is, I agree with this. The minute it gets downstate, what comes out at that point in time may be entirely different, and that we don't know. And that all you can do is hopefully that they'll look at this and include some of this language in there. It's a roll of the dice the minute it goes below the bridge. And that's the way I feel. You have to go that way. So that's my feeling.
Dan?
I agree with the taking and giving people 24 hours off to go and vote and give them a holiday. There aren't that many jobs out there that you're working 12 hours and you can't find a couple hours to go and vote. I happened to work, one of them was a city fire where we worked 24 hours and we were still allowed to take time off and go vote. And I don't think anybody needs another vacation day to have to do that. Like I said, in 12 hours, most people work an 8-hour shift and the polls are open long enough that they can get there. So.
Randy?
One last comment. A lot of these, not the state holiday, but a lot of these points have been brought up in the county clerk's meeting, especially the opening the absentee ballots. And we actually had we had, I think, Senator McBroom or Sarah Combenzi at one of our meetings, and we did try to impress that on them, that would make our life a lot easier. And I think they have taken some of that stuff downstate, and they have tried to work on that for us. And especially the last election, where we had more absentee ballots than we ever had in our history. And we have a May election coming up, and I'm going to have to send out 1,200 absentee applications when I used to only have to send out 300. So there's a lot more work that is now under the local clerks that didn't have, we didn't have to do before. And I mean, I don't have a problem with it. It's just that we just need the resources and the time to efficiently do this job. And so the voters changed it, but the legislator didn't give us the tools or the time to, catch up with what happened. So hopefully, moving forward, the legislator, the governors, and the senators of this state eventually catch up with the times and allow us to do some of this stuff. I mean, the security of the absentee ballot is not a problem opening it early. I can tell you that for a fact, because it's already under lock and key. And just opening it, putting it in an envelope to run through the machine the next day. There's seals we put on it. I mean, in this township, it's not going to be a problem. I can't speak for the city of Detroit, but I think if there's a procedure that's enacted, we can do it. We're in the 21st century. We should be able to handle this stuff.
I think a lot of the problem started coming about when they opened it up for absentee ballots, when it was just for people that really couldn't get out of their homes and that were sick and stuff like that. When they opened it up as far as they did last year or 2 years ago, that seems to be when the problem really
Well, like I
came.
said, when the voters changed the voting law, the legislator, or the current laws we have aren't really in sync with what happened. So that's really the problem, is we have to catch up with the times and
Or go back to the way it was.
go back to the way it was. But there's just a lot of things that happen, like same-day voter registration. That's an issue now. We can deal with it, but it's more work we have to do. Absentee ballots come in up to 8 o'clock on that election night. So, I mean, there's just things that I think we can do to make the process better. Because when I think we processed like I think 2/3 of the township last election voted by absentee ballot.
That in itself is a problem.
And that's a problem when I have to have my workers start at 7 a.m. to process almost 1,700 ballots. And they're there past 8 o'clock at night. And as you mentioned before, I know in the city you had over 7,000. So you were there many hours past. And you're right. As time goes on, the reliability goes down after you're there that long. So if we can streamline that process better, that's what we're looking for. And I think that's what you're looking for too, just to make things better for us.
So do we want to support the resolution?
I'll make a motion, we support the resolution.
I'll second.
Okay. Any more comments? Do we need a roll call on a resolution?
We do, it's a resolution. Okay, trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Everson,
Yes?
trustee Marks,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
clerk Rattari is yes, and supervisor Durant.
Yes,
Motion carries 7-0.
bringing it to us. We know this guy works hard, so everybody else must work just as hard, because there's more of you.
So I will get this done and I will get it sent off to where it needs to go, okay? And I will send a copy of it to whoever sent me the email. I'll send a copy to you, okay?
Appreciate you. You fill it out, I'll sign it.
Okay.
All right, so we're moving, consider amendment to board action of January 18th, 2022 for interfund loan. What happened to our fire chief?
He's here, he's in the back.
I was looking over there.
He's getting his license put together.
Yeah. No, it's more of a safety net. I mean, I did, after the expense, I mean, they're still coming in right now, the expenses and revenues too, but I guess more of a safety net. I was asking for an extension, a 12-month, from the 6th month to 18-month on not to exceed $125,000 loan for the fire truck.
Kind of a big extension. You just,
It is, but we only get money annually. So I mean, I wish I could say 6 months, but we only receive money once a year, so.
Randy?
I'll move to, let me see, I get that here.
Support.
I moved it,
When you only get paid once a year, you gotta,
I know, that's
you
what I
can't
didn't-
just go by 2 months or 4 months, you gotta go by
Yeah.
12 months.
so I'll move to extend the previous interfund loan term from 6 months to not exceed 18 months to not exceed amount of 125,000.
Support.
And just a comment on that, I did check with Lois, I did check with the manager, and they mentioned our general fund is probably in one of its better situations it's been in, and we can handle that for at least that amount of time. If something happens, we won't be in any dire straits in money-wise, so. So manager and the accountant did assure me we would be okay with this, so that was my concern also, that if we had a catastrophic money shortage or, interruption, that we would not be able to move, pay our bills, and we're fine, so that was just my concern. And like the fire chief said, they're limited in when they get the funds, so, I mean, unfortunately, that's the way it is, and we just have to give them a loan for a short, up to a year.
Possibly longer. John?
I just wanted to say this is more of a proactive move than anything. Anticipating that the revenues could very well be tighter than we anticipated. They may need the extra time to finish paying off the loan. So, and like Dan said, the revenues for the equipment millage only come in once a year, so that 12-month increment is the best we can do. We can't just say, give them another 6 months, because they're not getting any more revenue in that 6 months. So, just wanted to be clear on that.
Questions? Ernie?
I hope we get going, because I just signed the check.
That's a big check. I know. I got nervous looking at it. It was a copy.
For $390,000 for that vehicle, correct?
706 or something like that. Yep, it was a big number.
Yes, it was a big number.
I saw a copy of it. Yeah, I got nervous too.
But it's a great truck.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. I know.
That was a portion, I have to go back and look, but that was a big figure that I had to sign.
Yeah, it was a little over 700,000.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's all remember, this is a purpose-built vehicle, not a bells and whistles
No, it really
parade
isn't.
truck.
It really isn't. No.
Follow that up, for people have to realize, it's not like buying a car where you almost can take it off the lot right away. We're talking 12 to 18 months before we're gonna see it over in the fire department.
at least minimum.
At least that.
Yep.
So,
And we have a year into trying to build what we think we need for the future of the township. There's a lot of time in it, and we're still not done. That's a work in progress. It's a big job. But we've had help too. The other communities that have recently purchased have helped us out too and given us ideas, and so it's worked out well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think, I don't know.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Thank you for your work
It's been a
on
long
this.
day, yeah. Long couple days.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Now you can go
Ice Rink
home.
looks great too.
Have a beer. All right, let's get rid of Lenny, too. Get you guys to go home. Consider purchase of vacuum excavator.
So I'm looking for some money here too, so.
Uh-oh. We just gave it all away.
Yeah. This is for, that hydro vacuum excavator that we have been talking about. The primary use, or the main use that we're gonna use it for, at least at first, is for that lead service line verification, mandate that we have coming down from the state. So, we did look at it, seeing if we could just contract the whole project out, and that was over $100,000. So then we figured that the best thing to do was just get a machine, do it ourselves, and then once we were done actually doing this this potholing with this machine, it can be used for many other things throughout the water, sewer, and the public works department, even like building and grounds and stuff. So, and actually, it could actually be rented out after we're done. And I know that Manager Kangas actually had some interest from other municipalities wondering, hey, what are you guys going to do with that when you're done using it? Is it available for rent? So there is a possibility that this is going to become a hot commodity within the next few years. So we did contact 4 different companies. We had a response back from 3 of them. They're all really good machines. All would fit the bill and do the work for us. I did make a quote tab there for everybody. We had a Ring-O-Matic from LF George. Vermeer actually gave us 2 quotes on 2 separate machines, and we had one from Ditch Witch Midwest. These particular machines basically have what they call a hot box, which is hot water. It has a hydraulic boom on it, so where you can boom out to it. And it has the proper CFM for suction capability for what we need to get down as deep as what we need to do. Actually, one little change I do have to have on the quotes, I put, we had for the Vermeer, the 2 Vermeers, we had a verbal estimate of putting the hydraulic boom on it, was verbally $10,000. I actually got an official paper quote back in between the time I made the packet and tonight, and it actually added $17,000 to that cost. So one with a hydraulic boom from Vermeer would actually be like $109,819. So having said that, the Ring-O-Matic came in cheapest out of all of them with the hydraulic boom and the hot water heater on it. That came in at $96,121. That is for a brand new 2021 unit. 2022 units for any of these manufacturers would be almost a year out to get them. Ring-O-Matic actually has this particular very machine rate on site. One other quick change that I just noted here today too about the Ring-O-Matic is there is the hot box actually comes separate, so there would be an extra. He gave me an estimate of about $500 to install it if we wanted them to install the hot water maker on it. So that would add $500 to that price from what I have, approximately $500 from what I have quoted on that.
Okay, questions? Dan? Or Lenny? Looked at Dan.
I'm just wondering on delivery, if they have it in stock, what are you looking at as far as delivery time?
Probably a couple weeks, maybe even next week.
Oh, okay, that's quick.
Brent?
I'll move to purchase a 2021 Ring-O-Matic 550VX with a 6-way hydraulic boom with optional water heater from the LF George Incorporated for the amount of, and I'll add the $500 for Lenny. $96,621.
Support?
Okay, any other questions?
So my assumption is that there is storage space inside a building for this piece of equipment.
Yes, it will have to be stored inside just because it has some water and stuff in it, so.
So we have space, right?
Yes, yep. If not, we'll make space.
Okay.
Anything else?
Just a comment, there was units that didn't have the hydraulic boom that were cheaper, but it was very difficult to move it and very labor intensive. And I talked to the manager and I said, nope, work smarter, not harder. So if they have hydraulics that can do the work, well, we'll use that.
Cheaper than having somebody's back go out.
Correct.
Thank you. That's exactly the concern I have. Safety, when you're doing these day in and day out for weeks at a time, we don't need a whole list of guys out with back injuries because we didn't give them the extra $15,000 hydraulic operation.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lenny.
Thanks, Lenny.
Means I've got another check to sign.
Okay, consider future of township events. We've been talking about events a lot lately. We get our reports every month, pretty much, what's coming up, what it involves. We talk about it during the budget sessions because we know we have to set money aside. We've had many conversations about the cost of these events. And Randy and the manager and I have been having many discussions about this. The committee is not defined. There are no bylaws, there are no structure. We've loosely said they fall under the planning commission because roads and recreation does, or do. If it's a board committee, it should be set up that way. So between the money and the structure and everything, we just needed to have this conversation. I know Pete wants to add a few comments too.
I just want, if serving on the events committee, I just want the board members to, do a little research on this, tell us what you're feeling, what you like, what you don't like, what do you think the township can afford to do? But speak out what's on your mind. Don't just wait till after and then make comments after. But we have to know right now is how you feel about it, where would you like to see the events committee take this thing, and how we're gonna pay for it.
John?
So be open.
Sorry, Pete. Go ahead. John?
Well, I have several concerns that I've raised with the committee itself, liability being the biggest, from both a safety perspective and risk perspective. We have issues about how bands are booked. We have basically an ad hoc committee that is doing a lot of this stuff with no bylaws. I'm ultimately responsible for the budget. The budget is $12,500 annually, which is a decent-sized chunk of taxpayer money. And the way it's spent, I hear little things throughout the year that there are concerns of. So if the board wants to do something differently, we need to hear it. I know there's 3 basic events that the township has really become known for. That's the car show, Community Day, and the tree lighting, which to me are the events that we should focus on if we're going to continue down this road. It's a matter of how do you want to spend that budget to accomplish those events and or different events.
Cinda?
So is this a work session issue?
Probably is.
I think we need to have a work session and let people know that we're discussing this and have the people who enjoy the events come in and maybe, I just think that this could take hours.
Well, but we still need, as a board, we need to determine how we're gonna move forward as far as structure, for one thing.
So if we have a work
budgeting
session,
size.
Randy, is that correct?
You can't wait too long either because you're gonna book things and do things.
Yeah, well, either
Don't
you,
wait too long for a work session.
no, either you schedule a work session.
I'm gonna be incommunicado for a few weeks.
Well, so
Not
the
that I
rest of
can't
us
be
are
there.
gonna be here.
Yep.
But I mean, I don't think there's a problem with having schedule a short work session and have all interested parties come in and have just a little discussion, because our next major event is the car show, and that's June, although I know that gets here sooner than later. And then August, and then the tree lighting. And I do agree with Pete, I think those, and the manager, I think those are the three events we should concentrate our efforts on, because those are the most successful that we've had. And year in, year out, that's where the people come to. So we did have concerns. It's just basically, I think we just have to get the structure correct and make sure that we're doing things that the community members and the township board are comfortable with, and just move forward. So I do agree with Lynn that this committee is kind of, right now, it doesn't have bylaws and such, and that can be a problem because there's no structure to the thing. And that's the issue that I kind of see moving forward, is we are the keepers of the taxpayer dollars and spenders, and we do have to answer to the constituents for that. And we need, if the committee is going to give us a budget and we're going to go by that budget, that's what we have to go by and spend what's there. There can't be changes last minute on that budget unless it comes to this board and gets approved. And that's just, I think, our major concerns is, last year we were presented a budget and I think it deviated, and this board really didn't see the changes, and it was left up to our manager kind of to take care of it, which isn't fair to him. It should come back to this board for any changes that come forward.
Besides the liability.
And the liability too. And to make sure that the stuff we're doing is legal expenditures also. And our attorney, Roger Zappa, will support me on that.
John?
So part of the biggest part of the concern I have with the way events are currently happening, as an ad hoc committee, when I show up, it's almost like I'm expected to vote like the other people that are present, and then turn around and approve the bills when they come in. That's a big problem. You have established policy that grants me permission to approve expenditures up to a certain amount, but I don't like, as most of you should know, approving expenditures that are different than what I thought they were supposed to be without prior notice. And when the invoice comes in, it's too late. Now you have to pay it or not pay it. And when you don't pay it, now what happens? You start building a lot of animosity. I don't like doing that, and I don't want to do it again, and I told the events committee it won't happen again. The biggest thing is, as the township manager, I should be a resource, not a committed member, and I'll gladly help out at the events when I'm available. But they need to understand that I have to be the control in the process. Otherwise, I can't participate. It's just, I'm not comfortable with it the way it went last year.
Go ahead, Pete.
We've had the three last year, and then, but we got three more that's on the agenda. They'd like to see done this year. Okay, you got on March 5th, you want to put a flea market with music. April 16th, a craft show, and then on November 19th to the 20th, a Christmas craft sale with music. And we went over budget last year. That's why we have to get the board to say how important it is, how you feel the importance of having this, all of this. Because we can't afford it right now. We're too much over. Last year we went over budget, so we have to make some kind of decisions, because March isn't too far away, and then June isn't too far away. And if you want to start booking bands for our community day, you know, we have to get going, because they want to, you know, get their contracts out there too.
So,
Their contracts can't be their contracts. it has to be a contract with the township board.
No, I mean, their schedule, I should say, their
Understood.
schedule for the whole summer. You know, they
Yeah,
have to do that, so,
Can't just throw in a March and April right now. We can't just change everything right now. Let me hear from Roger. He had his hand up.
When you have your work session, if that's how you're going to handle it, one of the major issues to be discussing and recalling is just because there's money in a budget is not authorization to spend that money. There has to be, and the only body who has authority to spend that money is this board. So there's nobody on an events committee that has any authority to bind this board or the township to commit or to perform contractual obligations. That is something that just from a legal perspective, you need to be discussing if the committee is going to move forward. It needs to be corrected because it's worked smoothly in the past in a fairly loose fashion, but from a technical legal perspective, there's certainly room for improvement
So
moving
Roger,
forward.
As far as the process, do you think we need to have bylaws in place before we can make any changes? Or is that just part of the?
Not necessarily. That's a chicken and egg question to some degree. Should both occur? Probably yes. But which one comes first isn't necessarily a critical component from my perspective.
Linda?
So I'm still pretty unclear about this whole events thing, and I'm not really sure why we're spending township funds to put on events, personally. I'm not sure why we're doing that. I don't think Chalkley or Nagani or Ishburning, and I don't know that, so I need to do a little bit of research, but I don't think they've budgeted money in those budgets to pay for events. I think they're paid for differently. They're paid for by whoever's sponsoring them. And the other thing is we entered into I don't know if it's an agreement or what, with Lake Superior Community Partnership, and they will do our marketing. So we don't need to have marketing money in an events committee budget per se. I'm real confused about this.
It's evolved,
Well, maybe it's time to have a work session and,
which is why it's on the agenda.
and play with it, figure out what it is that we're spending money on, because Pete and Chalkley, they don't help you pay for the Easter egg hunt.
no.
Who does all that work, Pete? Who?
We go out with it, and then the business is made,
The businesses,
Donations, yes.
the businesses, maybe it's the businesses that can help us out. I don't know, but I'm with John.
Currently, there's
It's-
one business helping us out.
Yeah, right, but we didn't ask, maybe we have to ask,
Well,
but I'm still
more
with
than that,
John.
volunteering wise, but, John?
I think until we can find the time to develop the policy that's being talked about, I think until we have arrived at that and have things in place that we would like to have for the spending of the money for events, I think it would be, why don't we just simply accept that the events committee will offer what they suggest and recommend as an event they would like to have take place, and then accompany that proposal with numbers and get some things to the board and let the board agree to it ahead of time. That would be a beginning, and it would be the place where questions could be asked as to what is the value for our citizens of, and we could, if proper, to ask the events committee who are proposing it what the value is. Some thought has to be.
you have to do it as a yearly thing. You can't just say,
You don't.
oh, it's coming up in a month.
What I'm trying to do is let the events committee play its role, but let them come in place on each one and present what they think should occur and what the expense is and what they recommend we approve. If you do that and you do it as each event is talked about ahead of time, then you will have achieved what we want to achieve. But I don't think we're gonna be able to sit down as a board and know a year ahead of time what that should be for each event. I think we need to talk about it, we need to have recommendations, and we need to look at it with the idea that we're gonna develop a system out of all of that that makes sense. Right now, it doesn't make any sense at all. I agree with Linda.
Well, we did do that last year, and we had a proposal, and we went over the proposal, and the board didn't get it. So
No.
it didn't work.
The board has not really been thoroughly looking at how much a particular event proposed is going to cost us.
Thank you.
Dan?
In the year 2020, did we not approve in our budget $12,500 for 3 events? It's been approved. End of discussion. If we want to bring up anything else to have other events, we'll talk about it next year. Period. Move on.
John?
So I had some of these very same concerns last year, and I asked the events committee to present to you their plan, which they did. They attended via Zoom, and they gave their whole schedule with a budget broken down for each event, and you approved it. And a bunch of things changed throughout the year with no control of it. And I feel like I'm the one that should have been saying, stop, we can't do this, but I can't micromanage a committee, right?
Yeah, we don't know who
I
has
just-
oversight
Well, that's the problem,
together.
especially when I'm attending these meetings and being expected to act as an equal member to the other committee members. I can tell you, Pete didn't know that these changes were happening. I didn't know some of these changes were happening until the bill came in. Because everything happened exactly the same way as the year prior. They just sent a bill for something different this time. Not pointing fingers, maybe it was appropriate, but it wasn't approved that way. So, right.
And it shouldn't have been paid that way.
Well, I agree, but what do? Tell them this invoice is denied when it's already happened? That's the uncomfortable position I was in, because the spending authority was in my limits. Now what do? And I've made it perfectly clear this year that I won't do that again, because it puts me in a bad spot and I'm not going there. So, what I propose is the events committee return to the board with their plan for this year. And if you want it to be for the 3 primary events, period, how they want to split the cost up between those 3 events, and we focus on it. But I don't recommend the township harvest a Christmas tree anymore.
I agree.
We need to plant a tree that's permanent, that grows every year, that we don't have to string lights on every year. We don't have to worry about all the safety issues of lowering and transporting and standing back up and keeping standing for however many months, weeks, I should say. And that could be our whole budget for the year, unfortunately. So we need to think about that. And where's this tree gonna go?
Randy and I had many discussions about that years ago.
Well,
We're gonna put it here, and then we put the parking lot up. And we've talked about maybe having it, if we are able to acquire that land, put it up there. We talked about maybe asking the mall if we can have a spot to plant a tree. I mean, there's you know, everybody says it's gotta be on 41. Well, I know, this is what I'm saying, it's evolved, and it just keeps growing, and it needs to stop. It needs to have some,
Well, it doesn't need to stop,
Well, I
it just
mean,
has to be controlled.
it has to stop and move forward. Pete?
Well, at the last meeting, I said the same thing as I told Chalkley. Chalkley did not have a tree, only because I belong to Chalkley Lions, and they got a little dingy one out there with no lights. I told the manager down there, I said, I'll put some lights on if you get approval through the board, to put it on there. So next time I went down there, they had all lit up, they had their own lights, but I said, you put a little sign, and I told our committee the other day about the sign, put a sign up, watch us grow, come grow with us. You know, it could be a small, it's not the 35 footer that you had, but you could play games with it a little bit, you know.
They grow fast.
Yes, they do, yeah.
Well, maybe some of these events get pushed over to the DDA too. Maybe the board doesn't have to deal with these. We've had a couple other suggestions too, John.
There was a suggestion that 2 of the events be handled by Media Brew, one of our partners in these events. They could handle them themselves, do the fundraising themselves, which is exactly what Trustee Winslow's point was. If that's what we want to do, great, but know then that we don't have any control over the decision-making.
Well, that is and isn't true. In my mind, you have them apply for an application to hold an event in our township, and we approve or not approve their application.
Okay, but there's a lot of other things that you have zero control over then,
Correct. That's
as long as that
always true.
understanding is clear.
But these events aren't being held for township residents only. They're held for Marquette County,
For everybody.
for everyone. So why, okay, so in my mind, why is Marquette Township paying for them? I support events. I think we need to do that.
I need to be clear, I do too.
I think we need to look at what our neighbors are doing and take what they're doing well and use it here. And Pete's still gonna be pouring hot chocolate on Christmas, okay? He in Maryland.
But you're not gonna be there and say, okay, oh, you're not from there, you're from the guy, you can't
Yeah,
come here.
we don't
You know,
say that.
You don't do that,
No.
you know? You open it up for kids for Christmas and you don't check anything.
Well,
right.
and we're not paying for all that food and stuff, that's donated.
That's
so
donated, the chocolate
we're
was
paying for
donated.
extraneous
so-
things.
Yeah, well, so that's what we need to look at, so.
But you just
So-
have to look at a different way of doing the same thing if you want.
Right.
You have to take this list right here and you say, okay, we had 3 before, now we got 6. Can we afford it?
We have 3 now.
3.
No, but I'm
Nobody-
just saying,
Yeah, but
I'm-
nobody's
you look at
presenting
this thing and
anything.
say, okay, we've always said 3 of them. Now, we want to do 6 of them. And we went over budget last year, we can't, okay.
Yeah.
So even with the 3, we're gonna have to cut back on advertising and stuff like that to meet their budget.
Or we can get sponsors.
Or you can get sponsors and go out to the businesses and stuff like that. Maybe we make, call it a dark story, people, maybe they might wanna, help us.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's gonna work.
$50,000, sure. Ernie?
Well, after that, I don't know. I think, listening to all this, I think we as a board, looking at, do we want to continue with those 3 activities, are the main ones in the township, and that?
I would say yes.
Those are, if we want to go that direction. Now, anything else that comes in on the side. But if we want to say, okay, we want to stick with the 3 main activities and that, and go from there. Now, funding, we have dollars in the budget, we can utilize that. Like Linda said, try to go out and get sponsorships, however we can. The question then is, who's going to go out and knock on doors? I've done that, and it becomes a major issue in that too. Because I'm on a couple boards, and we're trying to raise money, and it's getting difficult.
Very.
And very difficult. We don't get answers back when you knock on the door. I can tell you that. That's the biggest thing.
But your ways of doing that, Ernie.
We're trying.
I never really come out and ask people for it. I just come up, holy cow, Halloween party's coming already. Yes, I know, Pete, I know. Just count on me. So, I mean, there are ways of doing it, and they can see the positive side because it's for kids.
We're trying to do, right now, prizes for pigs in heat. That's been around for how long? and it gets harder and harder and harder every year just to get small door prizes, let alone, big money to help sponsor these events.
But it's not, the township is not in the business to raise money to sponsor events.
Tell your kids to stay home.
So then who's gonna do it, Linda?
Well, I think you might be surprised who does it in Nagani and Ishpeming.
I don't know.
Yep, so that's on my list to find out.
Go ahead, Randy.
Linda, we
Okay.
can talk about Ishpeming.
To move forward on this, because we've probably spent more than enough time.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
meeting is very soon, though.
Yeah, well, when Supervisor Durant gets back, I think we should have a work session and plan on 3 events this year, okay? 3 events are major events that are budgeted, and we'll sit down and have a discussion, and have the events committee there, probably would be better to do. Have them there with our manager and the board, and any interested public that would like to come, because it's open, it's an open meeting.
Let me just get it clear now. We're thinking about doing the regular 3 that we've done, but we're not gonna take on any extra.
The car show,
Board didn't approve anything. We can't set something up in 3 weeks. That's
All right, I just wanna
Yeah, no.
I just wanna hear it, because this is the first time in how many years we've had a discussion.
yeah,
Where
car,
the hell has all been?
yeah, car show, Pete, Community Day, and the Christmas tree lighting are our 3 major events every year. I'm not opposed to any other events. I mean, I think it's,
As long as we get paid for
I
it.
think it's great. Well, if your events committee can put it on without any budget, that's even great. But, I mean,
Exactly.
but I'm not opposed to any events. I just think that when Supervisor Durant gets back, we'll have a work session. We'll talk about these things, and it's not rocket science. Other communities do it very well. We can figure it out. We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Thank you. Moving along.
I don't have a store no more, though.
We don't need a
Why
motion.
everything?
No.
I just assume.
Well, when you get back, we'll deal with it.
If you can wait that long, I hope we can.
Thank you.
It's only gonna be off for a couple days.
The Board of Light and Power. My computer went to sleep. It's been too long.
I can take this one, I think.
Okay, go ahead.
We received a request from BLP for a letter of support for a grant that they're applying for. With all this infrastructure money out there, they found a category that they could potentially qualify for, which ultimately would benefit the township, whether it's improving existing service or providing room for growth, which we know we're gonna have whether you want it or not. If they can get some grant money to help make these expensive improvements, they won't have to pass it on to the ratepayers. And from that perspective alone, I would recommend supporting or authorizing this letter of support.
Also move, make that motion.
Support.
Okay, motion and support. John, do we know where this is gonna be? Because at one point, they did say that it was gonna be here in the township. Not that that matters for the letter, but I'm just curious.
I couldn't tell you exactly the location, and I don't know that it matters. If it's in BLP's system, it benefits township ratepayers, because it's an expense that they're going to have to incur, and if it's covered by a grant, then the ratepayers won't pay for it.
Linda?
So I'll just say this about BLP and their expansions. They expanded out to, on Wright Street, right below where I live. And their expansion and their generators have created lots of noise and lots of movement in the houses on the hill. And so I think we just need to pay particular attention to make sure that what they choose to do does not impact the residents in Marquette Township like the last project.
Okay, to be clear, this is not a
Correct.
generating facility. It is a substation, if I remember correctly. Substations don't make the same noise as a natural gas power plant. Beyond that, it's out of my wheelhouse.
You're okay, Steve. You're okay. You're okay.
Are you okay, though?
Yeah. We got you on
It's okay.
camera.
Thanks for coming, Steve.
I just want us to be aware that when they do things, it does impact the residents in Marquette Township. And we need to pay particular attention because those are who our constituents are.
Okay. We have motion and support comments?
We do.
Yes. That was a statement,
Lean over
sorry,
and
not a
talk,
question.
Randy.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We'll get that out tomorrow. Down to consider new camera system. Steve, did you do that on
Wasn't that
purpose?
the segue of the day?
Okay, let's make sure Randy's not disconnected here.
We're getting sound.
You ought to see the configuration of plugs and cords back here that we have to do for this system. besides
Okay.
what's in the back.
All right, so that was approved. Let me. Okay, so, just a background, the camera system in this room is 8 years old. The computer that's running it is 8 years old. And, it's time for an upgrade.
We've already had some failures.
We've had some recording failures. Supervisor Durant just recently, I think last month, put it in our utility bill that apologizing for the failure we had. And like I said, 8 years old with this system. It's a little bit more expensive than I thought it would be, but as a camera person, you pay for what you get. And there's little add-ons I've put onto this system. Like above the crowd, there'll be microphones now. So they can actually, if people speak from the crowd, it'll be on the recording, which doesn't happen now. And we'll be able to put the podium right there. We'll have a camera up here that'll actually, like the City Commission of Marquette, so we'll be able to see the person's face rather than the side. I mean, when we built this building, this was probably state of the art when we put it in. But like I said, 8 years have passed. And remember, this building was built in 2013, so it doesn't seem that long ago, but it has been.
I just want to make sure that when somebody signs in and they want to expect to see the meeting, they should be able to. And
Yeah.
we can't, 3 meetings ago, we had a whole bunch of educational stuff that we talked about. And we lost it.
Yeah, the recording
No audio,
failed.
no video, nothing. And then after that, the video failed. So we did have the recording.
Yeah, just no sound. We didn't have sound that evening, so, and I can't.
So we're not doing a service to the
No, and I
public.
can't put the sound together with the video because it wouldn't sync, and then you don't want to see, like, remember those old movies? Those old
Yeah.
Chinese movies where the lips would move and then you'd hear the sound later? I can't really do that. It's not appropriate, so. Budget-wise, we have 8,000 in this budget for this system. And I think Manager Kangas can probably find that additional 9,000 to finish out this system. And the reason why I put it on emergency, usually I don't want to do that, but due to the condition of our system, I mean, it's just a matter of time before it fails. And I don't know how long lead time will be on some of this equipment with supply chain issues and such. And I told the manager, if we're paying this, I want it done as soon as possible. So I would hopefully this system would be in ASAP, so.
Well, and how many times have we been putting the agenda together and I'll say, okay, where are we with power? Do we have a computer? Are we gonna have sound? Are we gonna have this? Yep, I've got this rigged up and I think this will work and John's gonna do this and. we should
Well-
We
have
know
to do
this setup in the back is not safe, as was just
Yeah.
demonstrated.
that. Stumbled.
It's not a
Well-
long-term solution.
And actually, with the system that we want to purchase and put in, we can actually live stream. I can't really live stream this right now, so we could actually live stream our meetings on YouTube and get away from, Zoom is okay, it's not perfect, but live streaming does have its advantages, and then you can just go right on the YouTube. So if someone wanted to come to the meeting, you just, get our link on the YouTube and our meeting will be live like the city commission, because I think there's advantages to that, so.
Well, we know, we've talked for years and years about, and we have too, and treasurer, about using our charter communications money for IT, whatever.
Yeah.
We talked about doing it when we did the community room, we talked about it in here before, we've talked about it for our computers, our notebooks, and we did talk to the manager this week about when we do the budget, we'll have we do have the revenue account, but we don't have an expense account set up, so that we don't have to worry about this. We'll know that we have the funds available, whether we take the whole amount of money or not, we can put 20,000 in that account or whatever, but at some point, is it gonna be okay? I mean, do you have an idea where you can take the other 9,000?
The same budget line as our events expenses.
There you go.
There's 25 in there. 12.5 is earmarked for events. The remainder of it is what you could probably call flexible for these kinds of unanticipated expenditures. And I think it's a very appropriate place to put this expenditure.
I make a motion, we approve the quotation from 906 Technologies for the new camera system in the boardroom for a price not to exceed $16,889.04, and authorize the township manager to move forward with the process.
Support.
Okay, so we know we're getting 8,000 out of the general fund, and then 9,000 roughly from events. Ernie?
Community promotions.
Yeah, thank you.
Rather than the general fund, I brought this up many years ago, the dollars from charter to go into a special account so we can use it for the activity rooms and wherever else, for cameras, for sound and everything else at that point in time. This is.
Didn't I just say that?
Pardon?
Didn't I just say that?
I'm just re-saying it
Reiterating?
again.
Okay.
That I brought it up many years ago, that should be, rather than going to the general fund, which was just dumped in the general fund, to identify it for these types of situations, that we don't have to worry about it. Because we're getting, on a quarterly basis, $8,000 to $10,000 a quarter, if not more.
We're getting about 60,000 a year from
Yeah, so we're getting a lot from charter. So if we put that into that.
With
We've
that
had
kind of
the-
money, we could have a full-length, full-wall TV screen.
I'm not going there, I'm just saying that the dollars are there, it's coming in on a quarterly basis and that.
But because it's in the general fund now, that's money that the manager already has not really earmarked, but it's already in his budget to spend. So if we pull that out, now you've got 60,000 less in the regular general fund budget to spend. So maybe we only earmark 30,000, or maybe we do 10 or whatever, but you have to remember that this isn't extra money. It's
I understand what you're
Okay,
saying.
okay.
I'm just saying that, yes, these dollars are coming in, but we have identified it through discussions at this board level that would go for these types of activities and that too. Because we do not have something in the expenditure side, it's just sitting there in the revenue. And it's bringing up the
It's used
dollars that the supervisor has, or I should say the manager has to expend. So we're trying to move it off to expenditures and just set it there so we know where we're at in that.
My recommendation on that would be for all of us to keep that in our chip for the next budgeting session. We'll have a new accountant on staff by that time, and we can look at the uniform chart of accounts to determine a way to specifically isolate the revenue and corresponding expenditures from general fund activities.
Okay, so Linda?
So, and just to be clear, charter is not giving us that money. The people who pay the charter bill are paying extra money, and charter is giving that money to us. Now, someone maybe can explain it better than I, but charter is not giving the township $60,000
No.
because they love us.
It's the dollars that you pay on the bottom of your bill, that's 5% now on top of that. It's a flow-through money. We pay the charter, charter pays it back to us. Or should say, the citizens pay the charter pays it to the township then.
Well, next budget cycle, they can repay the the promotional thing, the 8,000 that they took out.
Not increasing the events budget.
Oh, geez.
But there are other things.
Anything else?
No.
I'm getting tired. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thanks for working that up, Randy. Okay, what's the planning commission been doing? They had a
So the
busy
planning
meeting.
commission met on Wednesday, February 9th. In front of the planning commission came some new business, a public hearing on a special use permit on proposed short-term rental unit located at 2593 Norwood Street. We voted to not allow that. The second item that came before us was a special use permit public hearing on a proposed scientific research facility located on lot number 6 of the Cornerstone Business Park. We approved that. The third item that came before us was a special use public hearing request on a proposed solar energy system, a rooftop system, that has to come before the zoning ordinance because it's a solar energy system, is how it was explained. And that would be at the Marquette Alternative High School, the old Vanderboom School. And so we set the public hearing for March 9th, so people interested can come and participate. The next item that came before us was another proposed short-term rental unit on property located at 828 County Road 550. We set the public hearing for that short-term rental for March 9th. The next item that came before us was a public hearing request for Wednesday, February 23rd on the Marquette Township Recreation Plan 2022 to 2026. So that will be a public hearing on the 23rd. Some comments from the members were they also were supportive of Zooming for meetings when they were ill. And that's particularly important because we are only a 5-person board, and we've had to cancel some of our meetings because of lack of a quorum. So those were the highlights of the Planning Commission, and as I said, we'll meet again on February 23rd, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Thanks.
The planner was in the paper, we had a nice picture.
Planner.
Yeah, yeah, Eric.
Oh, she was here, the Mining Journal
Yeah,
person was at the
Christie.
meeting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's good. So why was the first short-term rental
Denied.
denied?
Residents came in opposition to the rental, and there was lots of conversation about it. So we felt if the residents were opposing it, that we should oppose it. But there was also discussion, but I think this is going nowhere in the state legislature about the state controlling the short-term rentals in the state of Michigan. It's not moving, so maybe it's done.
Questions for Linda? Okay, thanks. Roads Committee.
We got a meeting coming up next. Thanks. Our next meeting, what we're gonna talk about is a project for the next 3 to 5 years. And then we'll see where we stand in the Peter, what has to be done in that thing. And so it's kind of a funny time of the year. Pardon me? So, yeah, what's going on with it, as far as plowing and stuff like that, it's good that we know that about that, because we've always hollered at them, discussed with them about plowing the high banks to get those down, and people plowing who live on the corner, they seem to throw it always on the wrong side. They build it up on the edge of their driveway, and when you go around that corner, you can't see it. Go down to Woodridge, down a couple of blocks up, they're piling right on the corner, and they're coming up from to the Cherry Street, and pilot right there, and it's just, a lot of people are doing the same thing, you know. The branches are, we'll take a look at that as far as this coming spring, so maybe the light power. I know our Public Works dealt with them, and they helped them cut some of the branches back. I talked to the guy at Light and Power, he lives in the township, and I asked him about the how much of a shine should we get off of a light? And he said 30%. I said, well, if we don't get 30%, do we get a discount? And he didn't understand. He said no. But no, it's just, the roads are in pretty good position. We got a couple bad roads. I asked Iwaniki when they're gonna fix the Commerce Drive here, because there are about 5 cracks in there that should be taken care of. But he's got his hands full on what's going on. I might hit the, what's the next one?
Events, yep.
Events.
We haven't talked about that yet.
No, but I just think it is good that we had this discussion. You know, we have to have that discussion and how to pay for things, because money is getting to be tight, because there's so many things that need money for different repairs and stuff like that. As you see, you got fire department wants something, Public Works wants something, Randy wants something, so, and that's essential to have that done. So my question to Roger would be about signing for bands. You know, the events committee, well, we took care of that. But who's supposed to be signing for the bands, contracts and stuff like that? Is that an events committee or?
The events committee has no authority to sign contracts, period.
Okay.
It's the board.
Why wasn't that subject ever brought up before?
Don't go
Nobody
there.
knew.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
This board didn't know.
Don't go there.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's change the subject, because that'll be getting me a little hot.
Any public comment? Yes. Feel free, come on up.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you all very much for adopting the resolution. And just a reminder that this is an election year, and
Your name again?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Sandy Breitenbach, 114 East College Avenue, Marquette, representing League of Women Voters for Marquette County. Again, thank you very much for adopting the resolution. And we hope to be working with you. We have our Vote 411 system up and ready to go for any candidates that will be running in your township, where they can fill in their information in their own words. Again, nonpartisan, and we are hoping actually to get around this year to the different townships with some assistance for working in this platform. So we'll be sending around notices on that. Again, and just thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sue Holliday, 2022 Cherry Street. As a member of the Board of League of Women Voters of Marquette County, I want to thank you wholeheartedly for your support, your thoughtful comments and concerns, and sending the resolution to the important people that will help coordinate and get things in place and keep the vote safe. And that's our concern as well. Thank you again.
Great, thank you.
And thank you, trustee or manager.
Clerk Rattari, manager?
Yes, the person who's going to take care of that snowbank around the
Roger,
If we just keep pointing down.
Yeah.
It's 45 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And those big trucks don't go 45 miles per hour, because I want to take a picture and to the police. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Usually it's just us here at this late, so this is nice. Any announcements, anybody? Randy?
Speaking of election stuff, we had a Marquette County Clerks meeting a week ago, and we chatted about some of those concerns that were brought up tonight, and about how each township and city does absentee voting, and how they do election pay, various things, just so we all kind of get on the same page. as most of us have a May election this year. But, so speaking of that, election workers, some of you, if you would like to work the May election, come and see, or either contact me or Lois. And we got to fill out an application, and there's some training that you'd have to do through the county clerk. And then you're certified for 2 years, and then you can actually work anywhere in the county then. But, and there's some of our workers that need recertification because it's only 2 years that they're certified for. So the county clerk, I believe, is going to set up some training via Zoom or some in-person training in the near future for those folks that need that recertification. And if you are previously a worker, you can do it online. If you're not previously a worker, you have to actually physically be at this training. But we'll discuss that when it comes. And then I think the county clerk is going to offer new classes for trainees for the election workers in June, and sometime in June for the August and November elections this year.
Okay, Ernie?
I shouldn't really bring this up, but today was the last day to pay taxes without a penalty. You pay tomorrow, we'll put a few more dollars towards the township in that, so that's all.
That's enough. Anybody else? Okay, manager's report.
You have my written report, and at the end here, if somebody could clarify for me which pile of snow specifically we're talking about. The biggest pile that's out there is on private property that we have no authority over beyond asking them to do something, and I can tell you that contractor has no interest in coming back and moving it. If it's a pile that the township built up, we may have the ability to move it, but beyond that, I'm not sure I can make any promises. Is it the one directly outside our parking lot or across the street? Yeah, that one is private contractor, private property. I'm not sure what we can do. We already cut it back along our bike path as far as we can go, and that's about the only ability we have beyond trying to ask them to do something we know they won't do. I guess I wanted to be clear on that.
My person was concerned about the one on the township property at the end of the drive.
Okay, that one's much smaller. We might be able to do something about that, and it's probably caused by our staff, so. Wanted to make sure we were clear on that, and yeah, I know which one you're talking about. It's huge, and it creates a blind spot for traffic going north on Commerce. Back to my report, congratulations to everyone. The contracts have all been ratified. You know, the last one took a little bit longer than we had hoped, but I would say overall they were both very thorough processes. And then one last time, the Oak Hills public water supply is dead. We did receive a petition in opposition to that, which that's fine, they have the right to do. They only needed 20% of the land area represented. They had 48%, so well in excess, more than double what they needed. But you need to be aware, they only need 51% in support. They stopped at 48. That leaves 52. Who knows? As far as I'm concerned, we're not doing anything more regarding that public water supply until a petition arrives for this township board to consider that's representing 51% or more of the land represented in the proposed special assessment district. So just want everyone to be clear. And we never took a stance on it in the first place. There's still some people out there, I think, that feel that maybe I was pushing for the project. I may have agreed with some of the facts presented in favor of it. That doesn't mean I was suggesting we do it. As soon as I saw what the price was per parcel, I had a pretty good idea what the feeling was going to be about it. It was too expensive for anybody to be able to afford. And many of them said they don't want it, even if it's free. So that's pretty clear. I think we're ready to move on to other more important business. Oak Hills public water supply is done.
John, did anyone give any suggestions to the 3 houses that have the problem?
There's only so much we can do. It's a private well system. When the weather is more cooperative, the snow is gone, there's a couple of things we can do to try to help them out, but we should not be spending utility resources on a private system either. So we're only doing what we can within reason to try to help figure out what can be done there, but generally speaking, I think about the best we're gonna do is locate the pipe for them in the ground.
Can they tap into another well next to it and then pipe it over?
That would be a question for the health department.
Okay. No, I just want, here they are, they're stuck now. Did we tell them, you should look here, check into this, or
Well,
anything like that?
they already knew what their other option
Oh,
was.
they? Okay.
It would be to try to drill their own well. The problem is, the wells were never drilled on those lots specifically because they didn't think they were gonna get water.
Okay. But it just reminds me, go back a couple years, and there were areas that didn't need a septic, sewer or water, and then a couple years later, they come and say, oh, it failed and the health department won't give me a permit for it, so I need to hook up, and, it's somewhere along the line, they'll be back.
Certainly possible,
I hope
but
not.
until they come back, it's not really an item that we need to discuss anymore as far as I'm concerned.
Any questions for the manager? Okay, thank you. Randy, if you want to review the motions for us?
Okay, first motion was consent agenda, and that was approved with no changes. The second motion was to approve the regular agenda as amended with the changes for the agenda items. Third motion was to approve the resolution for the Marquette County League of Women Voters, and that was approved. Fourth motion was to approve the amendment to the board action of January 18th for the interfund loan for the fire department. That was approved. Fifth motion was to approve the purchase of the vacuum excavator, and that was approved. Sixth motion was to approve the letter of support for BLP. And the seventh motion was to approve the quotation for the new camera system for the boardroom and authorize the manager to move forward with that process. And an action item will be to have a work session when the supervisor comes back to deal with the events committee.
Okay, thanks. Future agenda items, I won't be here for that next meeting. That will be March 1st. I added correspondence from Charter Spectrum about new packages that they're offering for our public. A little bit more pick and choose. 17 or 15 channels, I think, that they can choose from. And there's some low-income options there for people who can't afford. There's some discounts available, so I thought that was pretty nice. Pretty nice setup. So that'll be in the next packet. And you will also consider an appointment of Bill Geller to the DDA board. He will be replacing Lynn Klein for the Mark Tran representation. So those two items so far that I have, that'll be on the next agenda. Board member comment? Anything else to share?
Do you know if these battery recyclable for batteries, these places are still available?
I don't know why not. I'm sure we would find out. I can ask if you want. In fact, that was the thing I was gonna mention, is the solid waste meetings tomorrow. Oh yeah, they just gave this to us, but I'll verify it with them tomorrow.
Okay, I don't see a date on it, and sometimes my filing system, which box it got it out of.
Sure. Yeah, this is new. This was on the back of our calendar a couple months ago, I think. The, just for your information, and I'm gonna see if they have any comments tomorrow, the recycling budget for January at the solid waste facility, they had $106,000 in revenue, 106,616.55 exactly. Payroll and health insurance and the payroll taxes was $54,616. So it just goes to show you that recycling's good, but it comes at a cost. So that,
They've
their
got plenty
meetings
of debt
tomorrow.
they have to pay too, so.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know if how they show the debt on there. They don't. That's because they did some fancy financing. I'll find out about that tomorrow, Pete.
Oh, also, I'll let Dan first.
I just wanted to make a little statement that I wanted to commend yourself and John and Manager Kangas for all the work that you guys did on finally getting these contracts ratified. And I've been in both sides and I understand it. So it's a lot of work and you guys need to be commended for all you did.
Thank you.
It was kind of nice because we had 3 different backgrounds and perspectives, and it was pretty easy to figure out what we thought you guys would want to see or hear. So I think it went well too. But thanks.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Randy?
I lost my train of thought, so.
Oh, no. We'll go to Linda then.
Yeah, so, the state of Michigan sends out checks, I think, in the next couple months for the marijuana businesses. Are we anticipating a check?
Oh, I thought you said sends texts. They sent checks?
Marijuana checks.
I don't recall how long the KBIC facility has been open, so I guess I'd have to look into that.
Okay, because that'll be some money that is not in our budget, correct? And we also received extra money for the, funds from ARPA? Did we get $800 more dollars?
Yeah, it was another 800.
Yeah, so maybe we can think about what we could spend $800 on that could benefit our community. Maybe an edger for the ice rink.
No, these are ARPA funds. They're pretty, unless we
I
spend them
think you can spend
through the
it.
budget loss.
You can spend it on that. You just spent it on a machine that
think it's
digs
time
in
to
the
go home.
ground.
Well, that machine is different,
think?
but I agree with your main point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, let's spend it. Let's not save it.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Wait a minute.
Wait, we're not done.
Take your coat off. We're not ready to leave yet.
Go ahead, Ernie.
What do you mean, we?
I will be in a minute. The one thing, if you read the stuff from the state on the revenue that they've been getting, I don't know where it's all coming from, but they seem to be coming in with lots and lots of dollars. It did say on revenue sharing, they're supposed to go up 5% or so. My thing is, I'm waiting to see that if that ever happens in that. I've seen too much the discussions like that, and then when you go looking for it, oh, well, it didn't happen, we had to do this or that, so.
Well, they found this money. This wasn't federal money. I remember the article right.
Who lost it?
Like you know, they redid their numbers or whatever. They did
Yeah.
it every once in a while, and they had an excess that they
And
didn't
they come up with these
expect.
billions of dollars extra in that, you
Yeah,
know.
and then somebody will say, oh, no, we had a check that was outstanding that didn't get cleared.
It's a
Okay.
change in revenue projections, right?
Yes.
The actual is greater than what they projected, so they have to spend it somehow. And if they send it to us, we'll take it. Just don't hold your breath.
Right.
Lynn,
Okay. Pete?
I just want to thank the board members for voicing your opinion on this. I think we have to do this more often and not wait till, we get a new manager here and someone different. But you see something, bring it up. If it's bothering you, say something. Because this has been going on with this event thing for how many years? 15 years? We've been signing checks for how many years that you're not supposed to, so, we should have caught that a long time ago. So, but thank you for bringing up your
We should
ideas
have
and
made
your
some
comments.
motions. We should have made some motions that might have.
Yeah.
We're growing.
Yep.
We're-
But that's good, though, that we should discuss things like that, so. I'm happy about it, even though I don't agree with you all the time. I won't.
We pretty much give our viewpoints.
Are you still with us?
Are you
Yep.
still with us?
I'm
Okay.
here.
What do you got to say?
I'll move to adjourn.
I was gonna leave
He
it
can,
for
he
Dan.
can second that.
No, I'm not seconding it.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks,
for
ladies.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Linda seconded it.
Oh, okay.
Did you learn anything?
8:59.
Yeah, I have to come back.
Unless they ask.
Right.